And the question to you, I don't deny the crimes of colonialism, not for a moment. I'd like to ask you a question. How long do former colonial countries have to be punished for then? One of the largest and most significant and longest colonial powers in history was the Turkish Empire. Do we do this to Turkey? Do we say to Turkey, you must have your identity erased as well as punishment for the past? Almost every single people in the world at some point has done something historically they could be punished for. But why, I wonder, is it that it is Europeans that we are always being heard, being offered that choice?
Muslim discovers why you should never argue with Douglas Murray.
I would like to make a point to Mr. Murray, and I would like to ask you why you feel that the presence of 1 or 2 or 1,000 people with a different identity within a society threatens the identity of the people who were in the society originally. Whether you believe that is a legitimate concern or a primal fear, and whether you agree that when a primal fear drives a crowd, they become a mob, and that a politician should follow a mob and not provide leadership by calming the mob down and giving them a reason.
Thank you. And towards the back.
I am against the motion, and I would like to say that the European Union was an ex-colonial power, so most of the countries of the Third World were exploited from us. So now we cannot say that we don't accept them, because most of their riches and their wealth were taken from us. And Mr. Voridis talked about our values as European citizens, as humans. Well, I think globalization takes them from us and not immigrants.
Your response, particularly to that challenge to you?
Very quickly. First of all, if I were Hassan in Syria, I would hope, among other things, that I would help to rebuild my country after the Assad dynasty had wrecked it so completely. I'd hope that I would stay and help to rebuild the country after the devastation caused by that family. Secondly, the gentleman here who said, why are you threatened by 1 or 2 people? I'm not threatened by 1 or 2 people. Nobody is threatened by 1 or 2 people. And the question to you, I don't deny the crimes of colonialism, not for a moment. I'd like to ask you a question. How long do former colonial countries have to be punished for then? One of the largest and most significant and longest colonial powers in history was the Turkish Empire. Do we do this to Turkey? Do we say to Turkey, you must have your identity erased as well as punishment for the past? Almost every single people in the world at some point has done something historically they could be punished for. But why, I wonder, is it that it is Europeans that we are always being heard, being offered that choice?
I would like to raise the point that the fear of the other and the unfamiliar is being politically promoted at a time of crisis as a substitute for dealing with the crisis, as a personification and shifting the blame for the crisis to those least able to answer back. Don't do that mistake, please.
Sorry, very quickly. I don't think. Can I just very quickly? I'm noticing this. I don't see the crisis being blamed on immigrants, and quite rightly not. The crisis, as I see it in Europe, is mainly blamed on bankers. It's mainly blamed on financiers. I mean, maybe we're watching different debates.
Let's talk about migration. Please, who's got the microphone up there?
Hello, I'm Vasilis Papadopoulos. I'm currently undecided, and I would like to address Douglas Murray. Since he mentioned 2 completely different things, which is actually true about cities immigrants are arriving in. Are there 2 different societies, 2 parallel societies, or are the actual locals losing their identity? How are they losing it if there are 2 different and parallel societies?
Douglas Murray, quickly.
I'd like to just come back to the point I was trying to make, which is this, is that you can integrate people if you have integration at the if you have immigration at the kind of speed which it did go through in centuries past. But if you have migration at the speed at which it is now happening, the examples I gave, the same amount of immigration every couple of weeks, every couple of months, as was happening across centuries before, then you cannot integrate people. Then you have no hope of integrating people. Then people will come in, they will not have to meet anyone from the society they are going into, and they will lead parallel lives. And there are all sorts of miseries that come from that.
2 parallel societies at the same time. I think this is a very good example of the prejudice against migrants. You are doomed if you mingle because you affect natives, but you're also doomed if you stay separately because you sort of keep an identity.
I have been harping on this point for a very long time. For some reason, people like to point to the West and its faults, and they never look at the East. They never look at the Muslim world. They never say, look what you're doing to women. Look what you're doing to gays, LGBTQ, anybody that doesn't fit with your values, you castigate them, you oppress them, right? Jews, Druze, right? You saw what happened in Syria. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible what's happening in some of these Middle Eastern countries where Islam has taken over. Horrendous. Why is everybody so focused on the West problems and they don't care about anything that happens with our barbarians in the East? Because of the racism of low expectations. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see the racism, the bigotry of low expectations, you start seeing it everywhere, right? You start seeing within your own society. Everywhere, there's this like weird notion that people who are victimized, people who are considered to be victims, even if it was hundreds of years ago, for some reason, they can't be considered, they can't be held to any standard at all. So anything that happens in Africa, anything that happens in these Muslim countries where people are being beheaded right now, in Nigeria, doesn't matter. You know, that's just totally normal because they're barbarians. They're total barbarians. Who cares? Right? Anything that happens with the Palestinians, who cares? Who cares what happens in Gaza when it's not Israel doing it? Because again, those are all barbarians, you know? It's disgusting. It's disgusting how people just write people off like that. And it's worse than, for instance, holding them to account because they never change. They never will change if you have racism of low expectations. For more, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.